Thank you for being with us at the virtual Mark Twain Library. And tonight our program is Into the Heart, a workshop on love. And so we're thrilled to welcome back Reading's own Alexa Owen. And Alexa has done some wonderful programs for us. And she has a wonderful way of helping us through these unsettled times. And tonight, Alexa is going to guide us in exploring love and the potential to heal, and its potential to heal and transform. And I know that many of you know Alexa, but those who do not, she grew up here in Reading. And after graduating from Joel Barlow, she attended Penn State University. She then spent the next decade studying yoga, healing, and the mind in North India and Southern Thailand. Alexa enjoys helping people to improve their health and well-being by designing personal yoga and meditation programs for them. She is currently working in psychology research labs at both Western Connecticut State University and Yale, and will graduate from the Institute of Contemplative Psychotherapy program in May. So thank you, Alexa, for being with us again. We're so thrilled to have you.
Thanks, Elaine. Yeah, and welcome everyone. I see some familiar faces, and I see, I think, some familiar names, even though videos aren't on, which is totally fine. I respect whatever you feel comfortable doing tonight. And I just want to welcome you and thank you for showing up here. Especially just showing up for yourselves, for like taking this hour to really arrive and land in this workshop for whatever reason you feel like you need to. And maybe it was just a curiosity or whatnot, but I do believe that everything kind of comes together, not for no reason. We'll say that. So, welcome. As Elaine said, for those of you who have not met me, my background is in yoga and meditation, and particularly spirituality and transformation and consciousness. So I thought that, it being kind of midwinter now and just after Valentine's Day, it would be nice to just look into the topic of love a little bit, and especially the heart. And the way that we'll kind of venture into that tonight is through a bit of a slideshow. I always like to use visuals, so there will be a PowerPoint, but by no means do I want it to seem like I'm instructing or talking at you. I welcome questions whenever you feel like you have them. I'll be kind of stopping intermittently throughout to ask if you have questions, and I invite you to just really take good care of yourselves during this hour. So if you need to get up and get some water or get a tea, just really good self-care for this hour. What else? I think that's about it. I'll share my screen so we can start looking into the plan for tonight.
Oh,
Can everyone see my screen? Just give like a thumbs up. Yeah.
It's
awesome. So yeah, I titled this workshop Into the Heart, a workshop on love. And in retrospect, that was kind of a loaded title because it sounds pretty big, especially to tackle in like 55 minutes. But instead of trying to go over, the entire historical and theoretical canon of what love is, I'm going to be introducing just some aspects from some of the traditions that I've studied, which are Tibetan Buddhism, Western psychotherapy, and yoga psychology. And take what feels good for you, and you can leave what doesn't. That's a very kind of Buddhist thing to do in terms of teachings and practices. And if it feels like too much at any point to like try to conceptualize what I'm talking about, then good, don't conceptualize it. My advice would be to just kind of let the words or the teachings kind of wash over you, because this is more a contemplative learning environment than an academic one. And interestingly enough, the timing of this workshop, I'll start with a story. I scheduled it, I think, over a month ago with Elaine, and I thought, oh, around Valentine's Day, thematically, that's kind of nice. And as timing and life should have it, I'm arriving here a little bit brokenhearted myself, not from a romance or a relationship, but just from an opportunity, an interview that really didn't go so great exactly a week ago today, something I had been looking forward to and working towards for quite some time. Um, so I just share that because if you're feeling like you're not at your best, then that's totally fine too. Brokenheartedness in any degree is also a very valid form of love, and I'll be going into that, how that can create some spaciousness and transformation as well. So just to create the space for that. Good. Okay. So, tonight's schedule, I'll talk for a little bit more, and then we'll go into content wise, what is the heart? I'm going to introduce it through the physiological mechanism of the heart, the more energetic aspects, and also the spiritual heart, or what I call heart with a capital H. I'm then going to lead you through a short breathing practice, a meditation that will help us just arrive energetically, put our awareness in the heart center, and then talk about a little bit more of the big spiritual aspects of what it means to dwell in the heart in daily life, what that might feel and look like. We'll move into a second practice, a loving kindness one that is more interpersonal, a relational one that I really love. And then we will close. And like I mentioned before, I will stop to answer questions. But if I really get going and something's going on in the chat, or you have a burning question, please just go ahead and unmute and let me know, because since I'm sharing my screen, I can't see hands raised, either like physically in each of our little boxes or through the function. So just go ahead and speak up. Okay. So this is Ramana Maharishi. He's a Hindu sage and enlightened being from South India, and he's done many teachings on the heart. He's famous for a meditation called self-inquiry, where one asks oneself, "Who am I?" And essentially that leads to liberation. But I just plucked out this quote from some of his materials that says, "The entire universe is condensed in the body, and the entire body in the heart. Thus, the heart is the nucleus of the whole universe." And I wanted to highlight this quote because in the Eastern traditions in which I study, the body is included in this kind of transcendental awareness. And I just want to make a point about that because, these practices and dropping into the space of the heart and the space of love, it's not about going up and out and kind of escaping, or transcending all of the mundane or the difficulties of daily life. It's about going down and in and really coming all the way back down to earth, all the way into the body. so that we can be liberated within the body and inclusive of the body. And so tonight, on that note, we will be exploring the intersections of the physiological, energetic, and spiritual heart. So those kind of three levels will hit. Learn contemplative techniques. We'll do 2 of them to promote healing and well-being, and experience, hopefully, an embodied awareness of what it means to reside in the heart. And so before we get going, I'd love for us to just take just a moment. You're welcome to close your eyes or not, but just find some sort of stillness. And I invite you to recognize that you've made a choice to come here tonight, to give this time to yourself, to explore a bit. Maybe you have a loved one with you, or maybe you see a loved one in the screen when we opened.
Mwah.
And especially if you've been feeling perhaps a bit challenged by something in your life, or isolated, cut off from either a sense of rightness for you or from other relationships outside of your home. Perhaps just invite in the sense of something somewhere that brought you here to this moment, to this shared space, to support you in whatever path of healing you're in now. So a sense that whatever brought you here is taking care of you. And then taking a couple of deep breaths. And then opening your eyes if you've closed them, just to come back to the space. Just a short moment of awareness to really arrive and gather together. Good. Okay. Onward. Does anyone have questions? Okay. Well, I suppose if you don't have any questions yet, I will ask you a question. This artwork is really gorgeous. It's by Alex Gray, whose studio I think is in Massachusetts, although I've never been. But what is the heart? I mean, I know there's some obvious answers, but maybe some ones that aren't as obvious. So I invite you to unmute if you have something to say about this. We can popcorn around a little bit. What is the heart, or what does it mean to you? What does it bring to mind? Yeah, one exercise I sometimes do with adolescents, if I'm teaching about this, but I like it with adults too, is anyone just go ahead and ask me, like, what's your name?
What is your name, Alexa?
I'm Alexa. That looked kind of weird, right? Someone else asking me what my name is?
What's your name?
I'm Alexa. So which one of those seemed like it made the most sense intuitively, or the gesture that you would most often make if you were to make a gesture saying, this is who I am?
When you touched your heart.
To me, it also adds this sense of identity. Like I'm I'm me, I'm Alexa. Like there's something very central to my identity in the area of my heart, if I were to speak of it in an embodied way.
Mm.
So it's from the Latin core, or center, essence, nucleus. Core in Latin, coro, actually means heart, as in like the organ of the heart. So that resonates with some of what was being said, this sense of centeredness, essence or essence nature, the nucleus, like where so much of the power is held. And our first step tonight, we're going to be going over some physiology, energetics, and spiritual aspects. And I wanted to talk first about something called heart rate variability. Some of you may have heard of it if you're interested in like stress research or things like that. And HRV, as it's called, it's kind of the science of the electrical system of the heart coming into a state of coherence. And physiologically, our heart does have its own electrical system. I mean, we feel our own heartbeat, but there are actually, I believe, 3 different nodes that are kind of coordinating all together to create the beating of our hearts. And when that electrical system comes into a state of coherence, kind of like if you were to listen to a really beautiful classical piece of music and it's the notes are all working coherently together, as opposed to like heavy metal rock where it's not, it feels good, right? And it's measurable. And and it's been shown through HRV research that when we're able to shift the state of the electrical system of our hearts into a state of coherence, we actually make better decisions, we're less reactive, our stress and inflammation in the body go down, we create a space of healing, or the ideal state of healing. So bringing the body back into homeostasis. And when we do that, it impacts every other system of the body, like even the nervous system, which is like super sensitive and known to kind of have agency over our minds and our brains. And so that's why I say that changing our physiology actually can change our reality. And this iceberg is a really great illustration of that, that if we can shift physiologically how we're feeling things and how things are working at heart center, then that has this effect of impacting kind of everything else that we're doing and seeing in our lives. So in essence, healing starts with the heart. And if you're curious about how to do that, in a couple of slides, I'm going to introduce the practice that we'll share, very simple, in order to start physiologically by getting the heart into a state of coherence. And there's also a really great TED talk on this called Being Brilliant Every Single Day, or How to Be Brilliant Every Single Day, if you're curious to get more out of this particular topic. Any questions about that? Had anyone ever heard of HRV or coherence? Okay, good. Well, I'm glad that I was able to share something new. Good. So that's physiology. And from a yogic perspective, for those of you who have practiced yoga a bit or studied it a bit, you might have heard of the chakra system. And this is an energetic map of kind of the major energy centers of the body, and it kind of tracks the whole central line. I regret that I don't have a photo of it, but in modern kind of models, there are 7 chakras, starting at the root, going into the sacral area, the solar plexus, the cardiac plexus, the throat, middle of the forehead, and the crown. And if you think about actually for a moment where you feel emotions, when you feel emotionally moved by something, whether it's like falling in love or being nervous or getting choked up about something when you want to speak or when you're thinking hard, where are all of those things happening in the body? Like, what do they have in common? If I'm furrowing my brow to think really hard, or if I'm getting choked up because I am trying to speak about something really emotional, or I feel brokenhearted, or I have butterflies in my stomach. What's one common factor? Where are
What?
they located?
Eh,
It's the central line of the body, right? So if you're ever like trying to remember things about the chakras and what's going on, think about where you feel emotions in the body when they come up, and it's more or less that's the map of the chakra system.
Mm.
And so when it comes to anahata, which means unstruck, because anahata cannot be um, cannot be destroyed or essentially hurt by anything. It's the unstruck sound. It's located at the cardiac plexus, so it's called the heart chakra.
Mm.
It's associated with qualities of joy, bliss, kindness, devotion, compassion, clarity, and contentment. And the signature kind of the energetic signature of residing in anahata, if the heart chakra has been really accessed and opened, is love as a state of being. So with no object of love even, or with no set of expectations around receiving anything from the love given, um, those are signs of residing in anahata. And in the practice we're going to do next, we'll be kind of blending an HRV practice with putting awareness in anahata, just to get a sense of what it might feel like to place our attention on that area of the heart. Because in as the yogis say, where the mind goes, energy flows. And it's actually been studied that if the mind is focusing on a certain part of the body, like the heart center, there's actually increased blood flow to that part of the body. So that's a more grounded way of saying where the mind goes, energy flows. Um, so anahata, unconditional love, the heart chakra. Any questions about that? Okay. Without further ado, then, I think, yes, let's move into a practice.
Yeah.
So I think this will be, going to try to keep it to about 7 minutes. So just find a comfortable seat if you're not quite comfortable already. Any position where you feel like you're not going to fall asleep. If you're not sitting, if you're lying down, totally fine. If you need some support behind you, please, by all means, get some pillows. We just want to be comfortable and not falling asleep. So I'm just going to guide you through this brief kind of heart awareness. And you can start by closing the eyes if it's comfortable to do so, and just noticing the contact points between yourself and the surface beneath you, allowing yourself to become aware of your physical body. And then starting to notice the breath. The breath open, simple, and spontaneous. Just tracking gently, allowing your mind to kind of ride each inhale and each exhale. And then allowing your awareness to kind of gather itself up and just focus in, drop into the center of the chest, the area of the heart. If it helps at all, you're welcome to place a hand on the area of the heart. Sometimes that can help to bring some awareness there, feeling a sense of warmth and connection. And as you notice your breathing, I invite you to just let yourself breathe in a rhythmic way so that you have even inhales and exhales. And for you, that might be a 4 count or a 5 count as you breathe in, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4. And just allowing yourself to find a rhythm here. If it feels helpful to you, grounding in the rise and fall of the chest. If the mind is a little bit busy, just letting it know that's okay, and that it too can rest in the structure of these evenly counted inhales and evenly counted exhales. And now and then you might feel organically like a big deep in breath or perhaps a yawn. And that's okay too, just afterwards returning to whatever count, whatever rhythm that you settled on. Knowing that this is the simplest way to just come into relationship, a sense of presence with the heart, and also shift the heart into a state of coherence. Just these evenly spaced inhales and exhales. And then in this final minute or two, your choice if you'd like to stay just as you are with the even counting, then do just that. Or if you'd like to bring in some visualization, just begin to sense or feel that with each inhale, you're breathing in oxygen that's just gently kind of stoking the fire of the heart. We're breathing some life into these glowing embers at the heart center. So that each breath, you're essentially gently kind of blowing onto these embers deep in the center of the heart. Coming into tune with centeredness, a sense of care, perhaps even love or tenderness. Coming home to the heart. And then softening your focus on the counting if you're still there. Softening the visualization if you're there. And just allowing the breath to breathe itself organically, noticing if you feel any sense of shift energetically. Perhaps even the slightest bit of ease or centeredness. And then gently coming back to our shared space, allowing the eyes to open if they were closed. Good. If you're really into like tech stuff or gadgets, you can actually download an app on your phone that shows heart rate variability, and there's like a little clip on you can put on your finger, and you can actually see in real time if you employ this even rhythmic breathing. You can see your heart shift into a state of coherence, which is pretty neat. So if that's something you're interested in, then you can definitely check that out. The institute to look at is called Heart Math Institute. Heart Math. Okay. So there any questions about that practice? Okay. So we talked a bit about physiologically what's going on in the heart. We talked energetically a bit about anahata chakra, the unstruck sound, the energetic center of unconditional love. And I wanted to shift now into a bit more of the esoteric, so the spiritual heart. And I have this little title up here, Microcosm Meets Macrocosm. And this is one of the principles in yogic philosophy and yoga psychology, that what is here is everywhere, and what is not here is nowhere. And that everything outside of me is also a symbol of everything that's inside me, and vice versa. So we're all kind of our own universes, our own unique universes, just spinning around together. And um, in tantric philosophy, in non-dual Shaiva tantra, classical tantric tradition, um, it said that, the locus of consciousness, like the center of everything, the center of the universe, is within each and every person. So that sometimes if you meet like a child, perhaps like a 4-year-old who really thinks they're like the center of the universe, they're absolutely right. It's just that everyone else is also the center of the universe. And we're all just kind of woven into this interconnected, interdependent fabric of life. And to some degree, that's not esoteric at all, that we can see that, especially in the times that we live in now, ecologically, economically, and health wise, everything is linked to everything else. And so when we harness that framework and understand that, then transforming ourselves really is like transforming the universe, in big ways and in small ways, then we can start to cultivate this motivation to just live well, not only for ourselves but for everyone. And some, maybe you've seen some of that in terms of like looking at things like self-care. Like when we take care of ourselves, we're taking care of everyone else we meet, because we can show up in the best way possible. And I wanted to read this explanation of something called pratibha, which in one way is a tantric meaning of what the heart is, heart with a capital H here, because I'm talking about like essence nature, and the beating heart of the universe. And this is one of my favorite concepts to study and also to teach, because it's really talking about intuition, and what it means to follow your heart or listen to your heart. Or if someone asks you, what does your heart say? We're really talking about this sense of what in this tantric lineage we call pratibha. So I'm going to read this paragraph, and like I said before, I want you to just let go of any need to conceptually understand it in this moment, because this is like a philosophically worded paragraph from a teacher of mine, and just let the words like wash over you. This is an aspect of contemplative learning where we trust that what needs to land will land in the moment, and what doesn't will land in some other moment. But just let yourself, for the next minute or so, sit comfortably, eyes open or even closed, if that helps you to focus and listen. This is pratibha, the spiritual heart. Pratibha, celebrated as the highest faculty of consciousness, simultaneously means intuitive insight, embodied instinct, and creative inspiration. It is this faculty that takes the place of vikalpas or conditioning in guiding the actions of an awakened being. In other words, one who has broken free from social and cultural conditioning would be cast adrift with no sound basis for decision making, if not for the fact that such freedom is concomitant with greatly increased access to the deep, nonverbal, intuitive faculty that all of us have. For you must be able to get quiet and still to hear. Only on rare occasions is this audible above the din of the compulsively thinking mind. The voice of Pratibha, unlike that of the mind, doesn't defend or explain or justify itself, but simply offers itself as a gift. It feels distinctly different from a whim or preference. Sometimes it's just a little quiet yes, deep inside, that you can only acknowledge in retrospect. Other times it feels like a deep current, as powerful as a slow but mighty river, a persistent quiet pull toward anything that aligns with your essence nature and the greater pattern of life. Following that pull immediately yields a feeling of rightness, though not following it doesn't necessarily feel wrong, just less right. Following the pratibha consistently makes your whole life feel permeated by flow, even though there may be challenges, because you are in harmony with the greater pattern of life. And so it's in this framework that honoring the heart, honoring that sense of intuitive insight, that embodied instinct, that feeling of rightness, even amidst perhaps fear or potential challenges, is to honor life itself, because it's essentially, a willingness to lean into the greater fabric of life. At least that's from the perspective of this particular spiritual tradition. And to ground that a little bit more, maybe we can take a minute here to just reflect and consider if there was a time in your life, big moment or small moment, when you just felt a sense of rightness. So it might have been a gut feeling to make a certain choice or go to a certain place or take a certain job or quit a certain job. Um, it might have been something that initially felt really scary, or like, I don't know how I could possibly do that. And yet it felt so right that you were willing to face some big challenges or adversity. Um, and if anyone would like to share, you're welcome to. I know I'm putting you on the spot and it's a big question, but um, I love hearing about and sharing these moments of kind of magic and intuition.
Mm.
I remember the first big time I felt this was that I really followed my heart, so to speak, was when I was applying for college, for undergrad, and I remember the moment I stepped foot in state college in Happy Valley at Penn State. It felt right. I felt open, a sense of openness, of spaciousness, of acceptance. I felt kind of light there, a little bit nervous, a little bit scared, but overall, it just felt right. And I had no conceptual reason for it. You know what I mean? I mean, besides the usual things. And I actually actively tried to push against that by applying early decision to a different school, to Tufts, and I got waitlisted. And at that point, I like just surrendered to what felt right, even though in my mind it didn't make sense, because that Penn State wasn't the kind of place I had originally imagined myself at. And it led to some pretty incredible journeys and relationships. So
Mm.
um, that's the first big time that I think I felt a deep a pull, like that sense of a deep, strong current pulling me in a certain direction. And it's said that following those deep intuitive pulls, after informing them with some experience, it actually strengthens the muscle to be able to tune in and follow the heart even more and even more.
Mm.
Any questions? You know, it's often not the kind of thing where you feel the flow and then everything just unfolds, you know, perfectly. It's oftentimes the one of the most challenging things, and yet there's this sense of rightness, and out of that comes this spiritual growth. So I highlight that because I would never want someone to assume that choosing the rightness is synonymous with choosing the easiest thing. Sometimes it unfolds with ease, and sometimes, oftentimes not, according to my teacher and my own experience. But yeah. Okay. So finally, I'll just touch on this, the role of love. I know I would never attempt to give an actual definition of love, but you know, ultimately dropping into the heart space and being in this space of love, it fosters a sense of acceptance, of forgiveness, of compassion. And it's essentially the thing that creates space for all of the other things, for healing, for shifting the nervous system, for um, coming into relationship where previously there was perhaps a resistance to with oneself or with others. And that love helps us to see and be seen. So it's not just about giving love, it's about receiving it, and ultimately coming into a space of experiencing love as identity, as who we are, as opposed to this thing that is, you know, able to be like just given or received. It's shifting the vibration to actually be love as the thing itself, which one some would say is the ultimate goal of spiritual practice. As Prem Baba has said, um, the goal of our practice then is not enlightenment, but to open the heart, because from that space, all the other things come. And so I know we only have about 9 minutes, but I would love to do just one more practice. I'll keep it again to about 7 minutes. And this will be one of loving kindness in relationship. So just finding whatever your comfortable posture is one more time. And since we already dropped in once today, we'll just orient ourselves again briefly with the breath, feeling your own body, your own structure being supported by whatever you're sitting or lying down on. And allowing yourself to bring to mind someone who feels really easy to love. It might be a cherished pet, even a pet that perhaps has passed, or a family member or a dear friend. And I invite you to just imagine that being just standing in front of you in the mind's eye, allowing yourself to see them, to acknowledge their presence. Perhaps they're looking back at you. They might even be gently smiling. As they see that you're gathering your attention to just place it on them, noticing them, acknowledging their presence. And allow that easy sense of affection or tenderness arise in this being's presence. Noticing too how their love and affection for you circles right back, allowing yourself to receive and give and receive and give. Just being in this space of loving awareness, tenderness, affection for this person or pet or being. Enjoying being in connection with them, noticing how they're also joyful in their connection with you. And if it helps, you're welcome to again place a hand on the heart, just further inviting in connection through love, through seeing and being seen. And then in this last minute or so, allowing yourself to drop in even just a little bit deeper into this relational space, into the seeing and the being seen, lovingly, tenderly, compassionately. Perhaps allowing the corners of your own mouth to lift into a smile, and to close this brief but potent practice in loving kindness, sharing the space of love, affection, and tenderness with another. Can acknowledge the gratitude for it through any gesture that feels right, whether it's hands coming to heart center, giving a little bow to this person, to this space, or just placing a hand on the heart. Or whatever feels right for you to just say goodbye for now until you practice again, and a thank you. And then allowing that person or pet or being to lovingly just go back from where they came, and allowing yourself to continue to reside energetically in this space of love, connection, as you arrive back into our shared space to close. So I love that practice. I could do that for a lot longer. But I kept both practices tonight pretty simple so that you can take them with you and continue to experiment and kind of drop into that heart space. And I'd like to just close with a poem, and then of course if you have any questions. This is Hafiz, the Sufi mystic and poet. How did the rose ever open its heart and give to this world all its beauty? It felt the encouragement of light against its being. Otherwise, we all remain too frightened. So, my wish for you is that you continue to find ways to access this space that is within you and all around you and outside of you and through you. Um, and yeah, continue to invite a sense of love and care and affection into your world, your relationship with yourself and your relationship with loved ones and the world as it is, as challenging as that might be right now. And sometimes even just shifting to neutral can feel good enough in these times. You don't have to go into like high gear of unconditional love. You can just shift into neutral, and that creates the space for possibility for more.